Willkommen zurück, Hnrs. Willkommen zurück in Ihrem Flipped Classroom und fortlaufenden Diskussion über die deutsche Wiedervereinigung. So now, really quick. Yes, welcome back, Hnrs. Welcome back to it. What I said is, welcome back to your flipped classroom. A continuing discussion about the unification of Germany, right? Probably dropped a couple of prepositional phrases in there or whatever, because mein Grammatik is schlecht, but it's okay, right? Es ist okay, es ist okay. Now, going into it, though, all right, we're going to be working on actually getting into more of the in-depth discussion about that unification of Germany, all right? But I'm about to clip in the whole flip that I actually used to use that I actually teach this every year, because I got all these tests to grade before progress reports come out. But the big thing about it, though, is go ahead and watch this. It's just wrapping up the last couple of wars and stuff like that, and actually it's like picking up exactly where we left off in class. But I'll see y'all tomorrow for your review. Y'all have a good one. Or, how would I say y'all have a good one? Ihnen haben eine guten ein. So yeah, anyway, series of wars. But it's an interesting thing. He's not attacking those places. He's not attacking the German states and bringing them in by force. He's attacking other people, making those German states feel like they're safer and better off with Prussia, right? So the very first war that he fights is this war known as the Second Schleswig War, right? Now, when you say these two places, it's called Schleswig and Holstein, right? So here's the idea behind it, all right? So we're going to zoom in on this map really quick. But there was two, like the countries involved are Prussia, Austria, and Denmark, right? So Denmark controlled these two provinces after the Congress of Vienna. The two provinces are called Schleswig and Holstein. Say it with me now. Schleswig and Holstein. Say it with me one more time. Schleswig and Holstein. Those two places spoke German, but were controlled by the Danish king in Denmark. And Denmark decided that they wanted to write a new constitution that would bring Schleswig and Holstein into their kingdom permanently. But Bismarck's like, no, no, no. They speak German. They do German things. They are a German group. We want them to be with us. So he decides to convince Austria, who also speaks German and who also has German culture, to go to war against Denmark to make Schleswig and Holstein want to join with Prussia and Austria, right? And they go in, and in 9 months, Prussia and Austria win this war. Duh, because they're really, really big, and also because the entire time Prussia has been building up its military, and they've always been a very strong military power. So they win this war very quickly, and Schleswig becomes a part of Prussia, and Holstein becomes a part of Austria. Now you've got an issue, and Bismarck's like sitting there, he's tapping his feet, and he's like, so I got Schleswig. But now I gotta get Holstein, right? So because he doesn't like the fact that Austria has Holstein. But here's the problem. Do you want to directly go to war with Austria necessarily? They've been around for a really long time. But the thing about it is he decides, I'm gonna make some of these other German states think Austria is attacking us, right? And so he threatens Austria and says Austria is trying to instigate another war. And what ends up happening is then the Austro-Prussian War breaks out, right? About a year and a half after the Second Schleswig War, the Austro-Prussian War breaks out. Because what he wants to do is he wants to go to war with Austria, beat them quickly, and he wants to convince a bunch of these other German territories in the north to join up with Prussia, right? See what I'm talking about? At no point is Otto von Bismarck declaring war on any of these German-speaking principalities. He's declaring war on other people that kind of control them, trying to convince them to come and join this new beautiful idea that it will be Germany one day, right? He's like, look at us, German principalities. Prussia is the group you want to join. You want to be with us. You want to see Germany happen. We all speak the same language. We share the same culture. Come and join us. We'll protect you, right? And he does this successfully in the Austro-Prussian War as well. About a year and a half later, this bad boy only lasts 7 weeks, right? Prussia is able to enter into this war and just smack Austria in the mouth. Austria didn't really want to be in the war very much in the first place. Holstein was very far away from them. They didn't really necessarily need it at all. They also weren't in this trade customs union that the Prussians had called the Zollverein, so it didn't really make much sense for them financially. And also because the Germans had a new weapon, right? So this gun is a massive thing that turns the tide of the weapon. Honors kids, you need to write this gun down. The Western Civ kids, you're going to need to be able to reference it. But it's called the Dreisse needle gun. So this gun, Prussian soldiers had it, while Austrians still had muskets, right? Muskets take a long time to load. You got to have the gun, you got to pour the powder in, you got to ramrod it down, you got to put the bullet in, you got to ramrod it down. You got to take the paper, you got to put that in, you got to ramrod it down. And then you got to pull it up and shoot it. And the best Austrian soldiers in the world could fire maybe 2 shots a minute using a musket. But the Prussians, showing their industrial nature and their military nature, had a scientist in their place in their country that actually invented this gun, and his name was Dreyse. And Dreyse invented a thing called the needle gun. This is a semi-automatic breech-loading gun. So instead of turning the gun up and pouring everything down the barrel, you see this little bolt right here? You would kick that up and pull it, and then slide the bullet in through the bottom of the barrel. Click, got it, bang! And then you would just do that over and over and over again. An untrained Prussian soldier with a Dreyse needle gun could fire about 6 shots a minute, while the best trained Austrian soldier could only fire 2 shots a minute with his musket. So the Prussians are going to use this technology to overwhelm the Austrian soldiers, and they're also not going to force Austria to pay war reparations. They're going to keep them on their side. They're going to be like, look, just go mind your own business. And they do. Austria leaves them alone, they move on, and now this is what Prussia has created. They call it the North German Confederation, right? So they were like, no more German Confederation, North German Confederation. And so they create this big new district up top. But as you can see, there's this dinky little orange area down here that they got to get control of, right? Now here's the issue with the orange area. The orange area is called Bavaria, and they have a religious divide, right? They got to figure out how are you going to recycle Bavaria, this last big speaking German area, into your empire when they don't really want to come in there with you because they're not the same faith, right? Okay, so it's just to keep in mind, the Reformation is still throwing kinks into a lot of stuff, right? So you got to understand that this entire area of the North German Confederation were Protestant. Bavarians were very wealthy, but they were also very Catholic. So they didn't want to join up with the North German Confederation, which was a Protestant majority. They were like, look, we'll just keep being Bavaria. We got castles and pretty stuff and all this other money. And they've had a king for a long time before that named Crazy Ludwig and all this other stuff, who actually built a castle that is actually designed, was the inspiration for the Walt Disney castle. It's called Neuschwanstein. It's the one thing, like this castle, I'm not even kidding, is the one word in German that Mr. Wooderson knows, right? So the Neuschwanstein castle was in Bavaria, and it's just kind of a good image of like Bavaria was very, very Catholic and very, very wealthy, right? So they didn't want to necessarily join the North German Confederation immediately. So they've got to figure out how can I get these guys to join up with us without going and fighting them. And what they decide to do, get someone to declare war on you that they also don't like that much. Because the enemy of my enemy is my friend, right? So like, who is the enemy of Bavaria? The French, right? Like so, because remember, German speakers and French people aren't getting along right now ever since Napoleon took them over. When Napoleon comes in and enforces French culture on the German speakers, they start to heavily resent them. And so we got to figure out a way to get France to declare war on us so Bavaria will be like, don't fight them, that's not nice, and then join up with you, right? And they do this successfully because the Franco-Prussian War breaks out and it lasts for about 9 months, and it's against that guy Napoleon III, Napoleon's nephew, right? So what ends up going down, though, is Prussia ends up winning and overwhelms France completely, and it all started over a text message, basically, over a telegram. Because it was like this whole crazy thing with, like, there was a, like, Spanish, like, vacancy on their throne, like, so let me put it to you this way. Here's how Otto von Bismarck pulls this off, right? Otto von Bismarck pulls it off by trying to figure out a way to convince France to declare a war on the North German Confederation. Spain, their king, died with no heirs, right? So they had a succession crisis. The person that was about to take over the Spanish throne was a dude by the name of Leopold, right? Leopold was cousins with Wilhelm I, the Prussian king, right? And so basically, Napoleon III didn't want to be surrounded on both sides by people loyal to Germany, and especially as the North German Confederation was growing. So what he does is he sends a telegram to Wilhelm I saying, hey, tell your cousin not to take the throne in Spain so we can avoid war and things like that. Wilhelm sends a telegram back to Napoleon III, but it gets intercepted by Bismarck. And Bismarck changes the telegram to make it look as if Wilhelm blew Napoleon III off and was like, get out of here, Frenchie. And what ends up happening is Napoleon III, who is now so insulted and it gets printed all over newspapers and sent all over Europe, feels embarrassed and declares this war. And it's the Franco-Prussian War. That telegram was called the Ems telegram, right? So the Franco-Prussian War breaks out 9 months and Napoleon III loses big time, right? Mostly due to the fact that France had not nearly as intense of an infrastructure, their military wasn't as strong, and also their technology wasn't as good. But this is the telegram that was like sent back and forth that started the entire war, right? That's the telegram that Otto von Bismarck edited to make it look like Wilhelm I, the Prussian king, was talking junk about Napoleon III, the French emperor, right? Like so, and that is going to be the thing that ends up starting the war. And this right here is actually a picture of Napoleon III and Otto von Bismarck sitting together, because the one big battle that they actually fought against each other was called the Battle of the Sedan, and Bismarck like wiped out all of his forces and stuff like that. So that's them sitting together. But when that actually happened, what's going to end up going down is that the French people are going to get so mad that like Napoleon III lost this battle and embarrassed them and all this stuff that they're going to kind of barricade themselves in. And I'll talk about this menu in class a little bit when we get there. But in the long run, the Franco-Prussian War breaks out of 9 months, and a bunch of French people had to eat zoo animals. So like, okay, I'll just tell you now. So what ends up going down is Otto von Bismarck beats Napoleon III at a very large battle in the Franco-Prussian War called the Battle of the Sedan, right? Well, Paris and France, being very Paris and France-like, say, well, he's not our king anymore. And they decide to, like, just make him, force him out. And they're like, we're not ruled over by Napoleon III anymore. And so they create a barricaded society inside of Paris. And Paris refuses to surrender. So here come the Prussians. The Prussians come in, surround the city of Paris, and they're like, look, we're not going to kill a bunch of women and children. So we're going to wait until you decide to surrender. And so they blockaded the city of Paris. Well, this is going to cause Paris to run out of a lot of food. And so what they end up doing is Paris, being the French, decide that they refuse to surrender until they absolutely have to. So to find food, the Parisians went to the zoo and started eating the zoo animals, right? So like, as you can see, the hors d'oeuvre right there is rats and sardines. And then right down here, you can see that they're eating a consommé of elephant. They're eating kangaroo. They're eating anything they can have just so they don't have to surrender to the Prussians, right? But what ends up going down, though, they eventually surrender because they actually basically are going to starve. And now you got yourself a German empire, right? Because Bavaria joins up with the Germans, and you have the birth of the German Empire. Wilhelm I is a very last little, we don't like you to the French, decides that they are going to become a country in the Hall of Mirrors at the Palace of Versailles. So ironically enough, Germany became a country in the Palace of Versailles, which was a dramatic insult to the French. And Wilhelm took on the title of Kaiser, or Emperor, of all German states after winning that war against France, and they became a country in 1871, right? And so this event, where you can see Wilhelm I and Otto von Bismarck standing there in the crowd, and everyone's saluting the new German Emperor, Wilhelm I, Kaiser Wilhelm I, this can help lead to a big world war that's going to happen in the next unit. But I'll see y'all soon. Y'all have a great weekend. Enjoy yourselves. I'll talk to y'all soon. Study hard and kick this test butt, all right? Y'all have a good one.